All right, it's the much anticipated wait. Football season no longer over. We're talking spring football, right? With our SEC insider, Matt Zenitz. And we'll talk a little Alabama football, what we can anticipate and expect for this upcoming spring. And we'll start with the quarterback situation. And everybody's talking about Tua and Talia. Talia obviously on campus, throwing his first passes as an Alabama football player just in their first day of spring camp Friday. What are you seeing from these guys, and sort of what's that dynamic that you see early on?
Well, I haven't seen too much so far, just considering it's been one practice, but it's funny because other years it's all about the competition for the starting quarterback job, and this year it's about the competition for the backup quarterback job, one that will include Tua's brother, Talia, along with Paul Tyson, another true freshman coming in there. But the guy who's the leader favorite for the backup quarterback job is Mac Jones, who's entering year 3 now with Alabama, a guy who has some ability and is actually drawing comparisons from Coach Saban to actually a former tennis star, John McEnroe. So if you remember with John McEnroe back in the day, sometimes would overreact, get a little bit too emotional, but when he was locked in and handling things like he should handle them was very good. Coach Saban apparently sees some similarities with Mac Jones, so the ability there, but just all about controlling some of those emotions because they feel like he has the potential to be very good when he does that.
Yeah, it is very interesting talking about that backup position. Okay, the coaching staff, Alabama, Nick Saban loses, 7 coaches in 2018 from that staff. A lot of guys, a lot of shifting. Where do you think, I would say, what unit do you think will have the greatest impact from a new coach coming in and trying to revamp or revitalize things?
So it'd be very easy to throw out like Steve Sarkisian, who's coming in to be OC and quarterbacks coach, but I'll go with one of the less obvious guys. And the guy that I'll focus on is Brian Baker, longtime NFL assistant coach, spent the last few years at Mississippi State, helped Montez Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons at Mississippi State become all SEC guys there each of the last 2 years. Both of them are now in the mix to be early round draft picks, aided by the coaching from Coach Baker, and the feedback I've heard early on has been very good with him. All
right, so as we shift gears, what do you think some of the greatest strengths of this team are with guys coming back?
So obvious one, pretty much everything offensively. You bring back the Heisman Trophy runner-up, and then you have Jerry Jeudy, the Blitnikoff Award winner, to go along with that. Henry Ruggs, who's gonna be a potential first-round pick next year. Some talented guys along the offensive line, but one of the biggest strengths for this year's team that people doesn't seem like are really focusing on right now, the secondary. So you have Trayvon Diggs coming back from his injury. If he hadn't have gotten hurt last year, he would have been in the mix to be an early round draft pick. Patrick Surtain, one of the top young cornerbacks in the country. And then you have Xavier McKinney at safety, who, with all of the great safeties that they've had, people at Alabama feel like he has a chance to be mentioned in that same group, and that he has the upside and potential to be somebody who's going to be in the conversation to potentially be a top 15 draft pick next year.
Okay, and speaking of the draft, Alabama loses, 11 guys to the NFL draft, 11 starters, a handful of them to graduation as well. Where do you think Alabama is going to struggle the most or really have the greatest need in terms of really the turnover in that position?
So I would say 2 biggest concerns for the coaching staff going into the spring: tight end and center. So at tight end, you lose Hale Henches, Irv Smith, and probably the most talented guy that you still have on the roster, Kedrick James, is suspended for the first 4 games of the season. That's definitely a question mark for them, that position. And then at center, you lose Ross Pierschbaker, a very dependable guy there. And I guess time will tell at this point whether Chris Owens, who's going into year 3 for them now, who's been a backup for them on the interior of the offensive line, whether he'll be capable of handling that center position.
All right, thanks so much for the insight. Appreciate it. As always, he's Matt Zenitz. You can follow all his stuff on AL.com. And, of course, for all your Alabama Crimson Tide updates, you can get those as well on our website as well as all of our social channels. Thanks for watching.